Alright, blue-red Prowess. We tried something like this in Standard, and it was incredibly underwhelming there. However, in Historic, we get a little bit more powerful card here. So we've got some Kiln Fiend. This is a card that was introduced into Historic via Historic Anthology. Whenever you cast an instant sorcery spell, it gets 3 attack till end of turn. Super powerful. We've got Dorat, the Perfect Pet, as a card that gets bigger when you cast non-creature spells. We've got new M21 staple, Stormwing Entity. And then in addition to getting Kiln Fiend in Historic, we also gain Warlord's Fury as an addition to Crash Through an Opt as additional 1 mana red cantrip. So, got a lot of cards here that allow us to kind of chain through our deck, allows us to consistently play this on the 3rd turn. So let's go ahead and jump on into some games here with this and see if this archetype feels better in Historic than it did in Standard the other day for us. Hey, ZYX, let's get you a sword to go with that shield. Thanks for the Prime support. Welcome back. I think we mulligan 7s that don't have a threat in them. That sounds fine. I'm gonna bottom a... bottom a Warlord's Fury here. Okay. Little Jund action on the other side of the board. It's a fantastic pickup. Jund is one I want to revisit here soon, too. I added some Scavenging Oozes to the Jund list up on my website, but I would like to try it out myself firsthand and see how they feel. Oven actually makes these Bonecrusher Giants incredibly awkward here, because it means I can't stomp without losing my thing, because they'll sack their target in response. I think I have to keep that, even though I don't really have a ton more instant sorceries for it, because with Kiln Fiend here, or with the cat, the Kiln Fiend just gets stonewalled on the ground, right? No point in attacking into their O2, though. Let's start doing that next turn. Yeah, the Rogue Energy is one of the... You'll see them on the ticker underneath the chat on stream. They're one of F2K sponsors. One of the things being affiliated with the esports org does for me is it helps pick up things like that, which is nice. Update the stream title. Yep, thank you. I played really well here. They didn't take the bait. Yeah, I think we're dead. Not a good start. Not a good start. Feeling about as bad as the Standard deck here. And I don't really have... I'm actually just going to concede this matchup. I don't think we have any counterplay here. Our Bonecrushers suck against their things. Our Kiln Fiends can't attack in to their cat oven. Feels bad, man. So I was hoping they'd activate their oven at end of turn, and then we'd be able to stomp the priest without losing the Bonecrusher Giant, but opponent didn't take the bait since I left my mana up. Good read on their part. Crash through gives trample, sure. Maybe we're not 0%, just single digit. I think this is probably a match where, or a game more specifically, where we want to save the opt for post Kiln Fiend. Weird. Thank you. Has Luris listed as a companion again now. Thank you, Mono. Let me get disfigured here. This matchup's probably awful for us, too. Bonus deck looks like they're playing Yarok Field. There's a lot of interaction in it on average, and we don't have a ton of threat density in our archetype. I think I'm going to opt into Stormwing here. We need more instants and sorceries to fuel the rest of this hand. Okay, that's nice. This can scry a little bit. The opponent's playing the deck I think they're playing. They shouldn't have Casualties of War. Casualties of War is a little bit too slow and clunky for the Growl in this format. This isn't standard where people are doing nothing for a long time. You can afford to play a card like that. Again, Kiln Fiend looking just utterly embarrassing here. Board state's super gummed up and it can't attack through. Prowess feels like an archetype that's 1 or 2 cards away from being tier 1. If by that you mean the deck's bad but people play it anyways? Because if so, I agree. I don't want that. I don't know. It's a castable spell at least. Doesn't kill this though. Storming seems neat but a bit awkward. Instead of using your corporate America buzzwords, can you be constructive and specific? What feels awkward about this? Because getting a 3/3 flying prowess that scries 2 for 3 mana effectively felt very good there. Yeah, this isn't really an evasive threat if I can't cast it. I think we're probably dead at this point. They're going to get to escape Uro next turn. They have a reach creature, so I can no longer attack through. Just don't have a good way to exile that. Alright, 4 copies of Disdainful Stroke. Gonna cross our fingers and hope for the best. Reckless Rage doesn't really seem particularly good here. Honestly, is it crazy to cut Kiln Fiends? I'm gonna leave 2 in, because maybe Crash Through can get us through sometimes. If you want to bring an Aether Gust, what are you cutting, and why is that the cut? Remember, sideboarding is a 1-to-1 proposition. It's not just bringing in all the cards that kind of have text. I think the deck is okay. It just never has answers necessary to beat classic archetype and lacks payoff. So, like, I think the deck is okay. Yeah, I agree with Lacy Dogs. Like, you said the deck was okay, but then you went on to describe, like, 2 different reasons why it's bad. Like, if it was only bad in one of those ways, I think you could maybe, like, go on a limb and describe it as okay, but, like, yeah. Vampires is mediocre. It felt like it had a bad Growl matchup, and the mana in the deck is awkward, because 2-color mana bases in this format aren't good enough. Yeah, I think my summary of the deck's playing some sweet cards and does things people like to do, so they play it in spite of it being bad, is like a pretty accurate summary. I was hoping to draw a 1-mana cantrip there so we could play Stormwing. Fortunately missed. This is 1 card too late. What kind of rude person had the audacity to tell the opponent they should play interactive cards in their ramp deck? Nah, I prefer Disdainful Stroke because I don't think our deck can consistently apply pressure in order to kill our opponent in the one turn that Aether Gust delays something. So Aether Gust is a temporary solution to a permanent problem, whereas Disdainful Stroke actually stops their card that's blocking. Like, if I Aether Gust to Cavalier Thorns and can't kill them the following turns, I'm basically screwed. Like here, this is a great example of if this was an Aether Gust and they play Yarok or Cavalier of Thorns next turn, I basically would be in a can't-win position. But because I have an actual answer and not just something that's going to delay the inevitable, I might have a shot here. I agree with you that the appeal of Aether Gust answering things that play to the board is nice, but there's more considerations than just that. Why do you think my 3/3 is bad against an 0/3? That doesn't really make sense to me. Well, I mean, Stubborn Denial is going to come to Historic. I don't think Stubborn Denial really solves any fundamental problems with the format or changes anything in a meaningful way, but it will eventually be legal here, because that card's legal in Pioneer. I don't think Stubborn Denial really does anything that Mystic Dispute or Spell Pierce don't already do. They're playing Yarok Field, TDM. And we're now hitting the point of the game where, like, we haven't applied significant pressure and their land drops just, like, overwhelm us. I mean, like, you should have assumed they had a Field of the Dead before now. So they have a Disfigure. I have no idea, Bombs. Saying things like never lucky isn't really exactly innovative. Alright, it's not a bad pickup. Get to shock one of these dorks when they double block here. The problem here is our opponent's gonna get to escape Uro next turn, even though escaping Uro costs 4 mana. It's only a converted mana cost of 3 still. So worth pointing out, had this been an Aether Gust, it would be much better in the face of Uro. Because my opponent's not drawing any of their expensive spells that I can Disdainful Stroke this game. I'm just casting this, so I would really like to draw more cards. Not sure we're beating Uro attacking here. Said everyone ever. If we hit like a big chain, if we hit like a chain of cantrips into a double strike spell, we could be okay next turn. Yeah, I agree, TDM. You know, Magic's a game with an incredible amount of variance by design. Part of the problem with playing cards that are interactive in a game like Magic is you're risking your interaction not lining up well into the threats that they draw in a given game, which is why, in general, Magic encourages you to not be interactive, but instead be linear. Up to 16, down to 14. I believe we're on the 0 outer at this point. That's not strictly true. We could technically hit 4 cantrips into a double strike spell here. That ain't it, Chief. Alright, let's die one more time with this, and then I think I'm gonna do a third different Magic deck today, unless we find something especially interesting in the next match. One of my plans for I'm trying to take decks that seem more reasonable at a glance, but like obviously sometimes you just get stinkers. Impossible to know. But this feels like poop one more time. I'm just gonna do a third Magic deck before we move on to Runeterra. Rather than sit here and hammer a deck that's not good for another hour. Sure. Like, looking at these games that we played, like, that last game's a great example. Like, we didn't even, like, our deck accomplished what it's trying to do. It's just what we're trying to do wasn't good enough. I mean, this was a base submission Scholar. It felt like at a glance, this seemed like it was something that was pretty reasonable. Alright, do I Dorat or do I Stormwing? I think I Dorat to try and get my hits in. I guess this gets hits in too. Alright, I'm gonna Dorat next turn. I guess Dorat's like marginally better against... Dorat is marginally better against Teferi. I think I'm looking for a land for next turn, huh? So I can go like Dorat, spell, flashback, spell. He says before he gets Teferi and his Dreadhorde Arcanist gets turned off. Deputy of Detention, okay. Not the droid I was expecting. Dreadhorde Arcanist looking pretty okay so far. My body is excited to get time wiped next turn. At least if we get time wiped, we'll get to scry too. I mean, like, you're describing why my deck's bad in general, Ivy Bear, because my deck's really not aggressive enough to play through an Arboreal Grazer with a lot of its draws. We can't go wide around it, and we don't really trample over it. So, like, what you're describing, like, isn't really unique to Stormwing Entity. So I think singling out Stormwing Entity is kind of silly. We need to do the thing here. If they don't have, like, a seal away or a way to kill this, we can eventually kill them here, which is nice. Reckless Rage. Some things die while others feel the pain. Reckless Rage. I wonder if they thought their thing was gonna live when they bounced my thing. Feel like that was probably the case. Reckless Rage has 2 targets though, so Reckless Rage dealing 4 damage isn't contingent upon it being able to deal 2 damage to my thing. As is often the case with aggressive decks in Magic in 2020, we're basically just crossing our fingers hoping they don't have a sweeper here. Six manas, you say? Hey, we did the thing. Yeah, manually tapping for reasons. Can we get on the scoreboard against blue-white awkward cards, chat? Is this it? Is this the droid we're looking for? It's finally happening. Bonecrusher Giant doesn't seem like it really kills any of their stuff. I guess it kills... That's not true. It kills Brazen Borrower and can finish off a Teferi. Would I rather have Bonecrusher Giant or Shock? I think I'd rather have Bonecrusher Giant. Kind of a medium day for Magic so far. We played against a lot of Wilderness Reclamation with the Vampires deck, and it also wasn't very good against Skrull. Do we want Fry here? Yeah, maybe. Remember, Lamacopter, a lot of the decks that we play here are viewer submissions. So, like, why does Fry need to be in the board? It probably doesn't be. It probably doesn't need to be. I guess it kills Narset here, technically, right? And our deck can't function if Narset's out for the most part. So, yeah, I guess it should come in here. That's true. Young Pyromancer could potentially fix some issues that this archetype has. And that'll be a card that we're getting in Jumpstart. If they have it, Teferi. I mean, do we really care about Teferi? Like, Shocks and Bonecrusher Giant stomp 3 mana Teferi. And 5 mana Teferi, like, if that card's sticking around, like, the game's over for different reasons. Not amazing, but fine. The fact of the big issue with decks like this, I feel a lot of the time, is like we're basically playing an aggressive deck that doesn't have any 1-drops in it. Feels like a big deal. For Eternal Karma, sounds good, Landon. I'll get that into the deck queue. Thanks for the support. I don't have anything for Arcanist to flash back, so I guess we're just leading on this. Opponent, big fan of manually tapping. Name Stomp. That's a good one. Runeterra is really good. AGZ, glad you enjoyed it. Runeterra has probably the highest in-game player agency of any card game I've ever played in a way that's really enjoyable. I think the one big thing Magic does better than Runeterra still is the depth of the card pool, but it's difficult for any new card game, no matter how good the actual core mechanics are, to compete with, you know, the decades worth of cards that Magic has available to it. I think that's long been Magic's greatest strength, is its ability to have a deep card pool that offers a lot of different format experiences. Even if many of those format experiences are currently just Uro. Oh, also, something that's sweet. I don't know if we're gonna cap the event since we have a small entry fee this time and we're only doing it 2 weeks out. But MTG Melee adds features way faster than Magic Arena adds features, and MTG Melee supports automatic waitlist additions now, which is fantastic. So if the event does cap, people will be able to sign up for a waitlist on MTG Melee, and then the morning of, they'll submit deck lists and check in just like everybody else. And then if people fail to check in or fail to submit deck lists, they'll automatically be dropped and people on the waitlist will automatically be moved into the event and paired. Yeah, their developers have been super responsive about stuff. It's really great. That was an excellent draw. See if they want to trade Meddling Mage for one of these. These do have Trample here, which is nice. I don't know how the waitlist is handled with an entry fee. That's a good question I should ask. Mage is naming Stomp, so I can still cast Bonecrusher Giant, but I cannot deal 2 to this. What is required to participate in this tournament? I would recommend you take 30 seconds and read the page that's posted. Would be my recommendation to you. $6 entry fee has you shook. Yep. Yeah, I'm not 100% certain we're gonna always do entry fees. We're gonna try it for at least this time and look for what feedback is on it. Whether or not people like the additional price support. Pretty much all of the entry fees being pumped into additional prize support. So the prizes for the tournament will scale based on the number of people in attendance. Everybody that gets at least 5 match wins will get Cool Stuff Inc. store credit. I believe if we max the event with 256 players, the total payout's a little over $1,500 in Cool Stuff Inc. store credit. We did it, chat. We're on the scoreboard. It just took playing against blue-white unplayables. All right, blue-red Prowess. You've been given another chance, blue-red Prowess. We aim to please Ivy Bear. Still collecting rares from this set. Snow and Steady. Mulligan there. Yeah, see, it's fine. Be greedy in bottom of land since we have 2 cantrips. Yeah, I mean, if you run good, you can play any literal anything, right? Sure. And that's part of what makes Magic a game that reaches so many people. Like, you know, we talk about Magic having a lot of non-games that are frustrating, but the fact that there's so many non-games in Magic is a big part of the appeal to a lot of people, because the generation of the non-games means decks that are otherwise god-awful and unplayable still sometimes pick up wins and let people feel okay about themselves and their deck building, because they played against someone that literally just didn't get to play the game, so they still get to tick that W off. It's why, like, when we talk about things like, okay, Skred won a Grand Prix, it's like, well, Skred didn't win a Grand Prix, Blood Moon won a Grand Prix, and it happened to be playing in a Skred deck. I think the number of decks people think Teferi and Reclamation push out of the format is over-exaggerated. I think, if anything, the removal of Teferi does small things like make cards like Dreadhorde Arcanist marginally more playable, but I don't think as a whole the format itself really changes that much. Alright, I think I want Disdainful Stroke here against their sweeper deck. Rest of this seems fine. I don't think I want Aether Gust. I think Stroke and Dispute's probably plenty. Yeah, I agree, Dragon Boy. Part of the appeal of Magic. And honestly, I think this speaks to some issues that we see in the Magic community, honestly, is part of the way Magic works as a game, I think tends to attract certain types of people, because Magic's a game where if you're looking for an excuse why you lost a given match of Magic, you can always find one. You can always find a reason why you lost a game other than I made a mistake. So people that are looking to not take accountability for what they're doing find an easy home in games like Magic because of the variance involved in it. So Maybe I'm supposed to just jam Dreadhorde Arcanist there. I think I'm putting that back on top. It's close, though. I think it's, like, if I play Dreadhorde Arcanist on 2 and they play Teferi on 3, I'm just, like, incredibly sad. So I think I'm supposed to hold up Dispute like I did. We call those Johns in the Smash Bros community. What, does Smash Brothers have variants in it? I was under the impression that Smash Brothers is generally, fighting games tend to be predominantly, skill-based, but is there variants in Smash? As someone who's not familiar with it. No, but they'll complain anyways. God bless. God bless. Actually gonna keep both of those right there. There's variance in items. Does competitive Smash play with items? I guess I would have just assumed that they would turn items off for a game like Smash. Comp Smash turns off that variance. Yeah, that was my impression. My assumption, I guess. That nailed it. So I wanted to scry before drawing a card, just so we could scry into another counterspell. My controller dropped my input as a John's complaint. Okay. It's not their fault, it's their controller's fault. And then in MOBAs you can blame your teammate, right? Been thinking about what if to reduce the number of non-games in turns of mana we're playing 2 decks. I think discussions like that are stupid and pointless because they're never going to happen, and discussing theoreticals that are never going to happen is nonsense. It's my take on fundamentally changing the game of Magic. I think it's a cute thought experiment if you're looking to waste time, but in terms of practicality, it's a waste of breath and keystrokes. Give this a go. It's got a perfect pet on 2. In for cantrips. Alright, what's the girl matchup look like? My body's ready for this to get killed, unless to never draw another threat. Please tell me this deck is fun and playable. It's not felt particularly competitive so far. MOBAs have random critical hits, sure. But isn't that pretty comparable to like first-person shooters like Counter-Strike have like some variation in like spray patterns of bullets that come out of the guns? Or do those tend to be set in a way that's guaranteed predictable? That's very similar. Okay, yeah, I thought that was my interpretation. Like, you could have some variance and still have things be predominantly skill-based, right? So, like, I guess here's my question. Like, if a professional... How often does a professional esports MOBA team beat 5 random idiots? That would be my question to you all talking about variance inside of these games. Like, how often? 99 times out of 100. Okay, sure. So it's not like, you know, LSV playing against random idiot, right? Like in Magic, like random idiot beats LSV probably 20 to 30% of the time, if not a little more than that. Like, I'm not saying that those games are devoid of variance. I'm just saying that, like, you mitigate that variance to an absurd degree. This is the part where some chess nerd pushes up their glasses and says, actually, there's variance in whether or not you're starting with black or white in chess, so chess has some variance in it, and then you smack them in the face and tell them to go away. Reckless rage. Some things die while others feel the pain. Reckless rage. My understanding is most big chess tournaments, you tend to play until one person has won 2 games in a row, right? Like, maybe you don't do every round like that, but that was something that I heard at some point that made a lot of sense. To remove play draw variance, you have to like win on white and then also win on black. In any bracket tournament, you played equal amount of games on white and black. That's so great. Could you imagine if every round in a Magic tournament, you marked whether or not you are on the play or the draw, and in the following round, whoever had been on the play fewer times gets to be on the play? And if they're tied, it decides at random? Like, wouldn't that be so much better than, like, the random coin flip nonsense? White goes first in chess, I believe. One of the colors goes first. I think it's white goes first. That sounds balanced and fair, so it'll never happen, basically. Easy block. If something like what I just described, balancing play versus the draw, wasn't so hard to implement in an arena tournament, I would request Melee add that feature implemented for the Hooglandia Opens, but logistically speaking, that's just difficult to do. I also, fingers crossed, I think I've determined a way logistically to implement time-shifted feature matches for the next Open, which means we'll be able to cover 2 matches start to finish every round, instead of just having 1 match start to finish, and then jumping around sporadically for the remainder of the round. So that would be sweet. That was my #1 feature I wanted to get added for our coverage. Just keeping all the cantrips here because they make Doriath bigger. Flood it out. Time shifted, so it's a time spare open. Yeah, you understand. You get it. The logistics of making time-shifted feature matches work are far more convoluted than they should have to be because Magic Arena is a piece of software without spectator mode or esports features. But I think we have a way to make it happen with minimal fuss. And board in the extra rages and the Aether Gust here. Just be a little bit more interactive post board. Trim the Raking Claws because this is not good if we don't have a threat in play. I guess it cycles. Maybe it's fine. Maybe. You don't understand how they still haven't done a spectator mode because they've been a victim of their own success. I don't think they were expecting Arena to take off as quickly as it did, and I think they constantly are known for underfunding and mismanaging their digital projects. At higher levels of chess, white wins 35% of the time, 55% are draws, and 10% of the time black wins. That's wild. 55% draw rate? Good lord. It's like a Team Magic Open. The skill gap between randoms and protein is so absurd. At one point, ranked mode allowed 5-stack teams, and randoms got destroyed constantly, and it was well documented. God bless. Thanks for the source. I think I got a mulligan this. This was an untapped land. I think I'd keep it, but even on the draw, I think a tapped land on one means that's not good enough. Yeah, this looks fine. Keep this from the bottom of the mountain. Maybe I should keep the mountain in case I drew a shock. I think I gotta bottom that. Really need a third land here. The blue-red deck's been a mixed bag. We had a rough set to start, but last couple have been okay. Definitely want the next land and basically in to keep all the cantrips in my prowess deck. Got him. He's dead, Jim. It's a sneaper keeper, do 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 do, sneep papa, keep papa. I guess if they have another lava coil, I'm a little bit sad to keep that cantrip there. I could stomp this, but I think I'd rather like Warlord's Fury plus opt into Aether Gust, whatever their play is next turn. Bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him here. It's not gonna pay off for him, chat. It's not gonna be a good scene. Not gonna be a good scene over there. You don't have to play your instants at instant speed, chat. You should play them while I'm mostly tapped out. You should play them while I'm mostly tapped out. Do 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 do. You got it, boss. You got it. He's dead and you lose another land. Pretty fortunate that we drew our blue threats there in the game where they drew their red cap melees. I mean, to be fair, playing high-stakes tournaments, you have players make mistakes as well. This idea that there's this place or set of conditions that generates better Magic the Gathering play really couldn't be further from the truth. I don't know, TCG. Yeah, this is fine. So far, this deck has kind of felt like a worse version of the Jeskai Feather deck that we played last week, I believe it was, earlier this week. The days all blur. Having more flying threats felt good. Having more ways to protect your threats felt good. The games we've been winning here have largely been on the back of our evasive creatures. $11,000 new COVID cases in one day in Florida. Yep. We're going to hit a point pretty soon, I believe, where we just actually don't have the testing capacity to accurately reflect just how rapidly the cases are increasing and spreading. I saw an article that mentioned the largest lab in the country was currently on a 5-day delay in some cases, and once they hit a 7-day delay, they start becoming useless because it's just too far gone at that point. Yeah, all these places trying to reopen before they really should. Like doing this like rubber band open close is ridiculous. The hospital where your sister works used to be on a 9 to 11 day delay. That's absurd. So it's not even useful at that point, right? Yeah, it's a big issue. People, like, if someone tests positive, but, like, they're literally going to starve if they can't go to work, like, what does it matter if their test is positive or not, right? Like, when the United States as a society doesn't give people who are sick the ability to stay home and not spread their sickness, that's a big problem, right? We need more social safety nets in America. Not only for instances like this, but, you know, just in general. I think it's right to cycle this. Like, I feel like just that isn't enough to really get anything done here. Want to look for more action, something like this. I believe testing is covered and free for people now. Or at least it was for a little bit. I believe federal funding was supposed to end for testing at the end of June. I don't know if that actually got renewed or not. Super punished for holding the land in my hand. Super punished for holding a land in my hand. I deserve this. So if I hadn't played, if I would have played this land out, I would have killed my opponent here. Because they wouldn't have a blocker. Alright. Hashtag sometimes lucky. Hashtag sometimes lucky. So I'm excited to find out, and by excited I mean excited to find out what the total hospital bill for Haley ends up being. It's been a little while since we had a kid, so I'm interested to see how much it changes from the first two 5 or 6 years ago. Got about 10 grand set aside from we max out the old deductible. I think our family maximum is 10 grand. I think we have an individual 5 grand, maximum 10 grand. And the way they usually bill it, they'll bill some of it to Haley and some of it to my wife, so we'll hit the family maximum. You have to pay for your hospital stay. They bill the baby. Of course, there's doctors there to make sure the baby's okay. Yeah, of course you pay for your hospital stay when you give birth in America. You pay for your hospital stay all the time. The healthcare industry in the United States of America is a for-profit industry designed to make money off of people. Yeah, and then you have to understand that, like, the reason why we don't have something better than that is because half the country, even more than half the country, honestly, there's Democrats that are brainwashed into it too. Like, neoliberal shills like Joe Biden are against Medicare for all as well. He'll expand healthcare accessibility, but he won't make it nearly what we really need. For that year and a half to free trading, I appreciate that. Like, yeah, like, if you're not from the United States, you haven't heard the stories of, like, people dying because they ration their insulin. Like, those stories are real. That happens constantly in the United States. Because, again, healthcare is not a human right here. It's a for-profit industry designed to make money off of people. You want to stomp the Land War Elf here. And then, another thing, too, that you should also understand is when I say it could be up to 10 grand if we hit our family maximum for the birth. When you hear politicians like Joe Biden talk about people liking their health insurance and having good health insurance, my wife, through her Fortune 50 employer, provides us with what's considered some of the best health insurance coverage that you can get in the United States. Between my wife's monthly paychecks and what her employer pays, they pay 20 grand a year combined for us to have the health insurance that then costs up to 10 grand to have a child. So you pay 20 grand to have the privilege of only paying up to another 10 grand should you actually have to use the health coverage. Sure, up to 10 grand for anything, right? Like, if my family got in a car accident, it would cost us up to 10 grand for the health insurance. If we had to go to the hospital as the result of it. People who like their health insurance are people who never had to use it. Correct, yep. And then if you're really lucky, your health insurance company won't fight the charges that the hospital puts through and make you prove that you actually needed the care that they provided. Because it's a for-profit industry, the companies make money by not paying for things. You can't be profitable if you're expected to actually shell out money to people. All right, so you see the story about the woman who got mauled by a bear, and so the worst part of the experience was dealing with her insurance company. Yeah, I'd believe that. Sounds about right. Not having a second red mana here is pretty brutal. Tap land's a little awk. I think I'm just reckless raging here, and passing. So people pay to prove that they don't need to pay. Yes, exactly. Great. Yeah. I think I'm going to Aether Gust Vivian Reed in response here. This will put her on top of the deck, or probably the bottom, because they put her on top. Her trigger will gloss over her, so this gets rid of her at least. Yeah, of course not, Chris. You live in a first world country that cares about its residents. Not whatever America is. Have I ever considered leaving the United States? If at any point my wife lost her job, we would strongly considering leaving the United States. Yeah. Especially if I was still doing this for work. Like, it's easier. It's not easy to immigrate anywhere, but like, if I have a job, it could prove I've had income that's reasonable for the last so many years. Like, places are more willing to take you in if your job is coming with you. Like, all right, I'm going to show up and pay you taxes here and my job's coming with me. Like, becomes easier to immigrate to some places. Olarax, thanks for the 2.5 years. I appreciate that. Welcome back. Thanks for keeping me around. Canada or New Zealand. Those would be my one and my two. Probably New Zealand first, but that one would probably be harder to both get to and get into from the United States. Canada's too cold. I mean, we get pretty cold here. Like, where I live in Illinois, we get polar vortexes that hit, like, you know, sub 50 with wind chill, and we also get, like, 100+ degree weather. I mean, people probably suck everywhere. New Zealand at least hasn't had its head up its ass as far as like things related to COVID are concerned. They've had a pretty good response. Correct. In the current, and that's also assumes that too, right? Like currently nobody's really immigrating anywhere. So like the ability to change countries even assumes that there's going to be, you know, a post-COVID landscape. But, you know, hopefully there's going to be. Think we do this, so this way if they don't kill it, we can cantrip plus Reckless Rage to kill something next turn. Man, hard to believe there won't be a post-COVID landscape. God bless you. Keep that optimism up. Happy all countries matter day, Red Link. Last time there was this much population of the Earth living in denial about an infectious disease, only 10% of the population died. Yeah. Alright. Just going bottoms up here, looking for a fourth land at this point. Probably just dead. Yeah. In Austria, we basically shut everything down the moment we had 200 cases. Now stuff is slowly opening up. We maybe 10 to 20 new cases per day. The country's literally next to Italy, so we did pretty well. Yeah, I mean, the European response has been really good overall, right? Like, what you have to understand is, like, the United States has a lot of people in it, but we're not nearly as densely populated as places in Europe. So the fact that, like, the U.S. has had the outbreak of cases that it's had is really a testament to just, like, how bad our leadership has been here in places where the outbreaks got bad. I think I'm gonna be done with this one. This deck felt pretty mediocre overall. It felt like it had a lot of the same issues that it had in Standard, where you have a pretty aggressive wrong half problem, where, like, you have too many spells and not enough threats, or too many threats and not enough spells. And past that, when we did have the right mix of things, we also have just, like, have draws where we can't keep our stuff alive. Overall, if you're looking to play Stormwing Entity and Dorat the perfect pet in this format, I think Jeskai Feather. This is one of the decks you can find up on my website that we also played on stream pretty recently. I think this is just a much better direction to be going. The ability to play both Fight as One and God's Willing as protection, and just how good Feather Redeemed slaughters other creatures deck with Reckless Rage. I think this is a much better choice for the format overall than just the straight blue-red prowess goes. So, if you're looking to play these cards, I think this is the direction I would go, as opposed to the straight blue-red prowess deck we just got done playing. All right, that's going to be it for Magic for me for today. I really appreciate everybody here that was just here for that. We're going to roll on into some Rune Terra up next. If you haven't seen that before, that is Riot's new card game that I've been enjoying a lot of. Going to get that loaded up here, and we'll be on our way. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out. You have much confident in Phoenix and Historic now that they have easy access to Graveyard. I think even before there was Graveyard Hate, Phoenix just wasn't very good in Historic. Hey, Dunkill86, thanks for the brand new Prime support. Welcome to Glandia. Hope you're having a good one wherever you're at.